Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. And we do need a motion for the adoption of the agenda, please.
Move to adopt the agenda with the addendum.
I second that.
Moved and seconded to approve that agenda with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Approval of the minutes, 3.0.
Move to
Issue
approve those minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4.0, consideration of bills and warrants.
Motion to approve bills and warrants.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those bills and warrants. Any issues with those tonight? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 5.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. I don't see anyone in the audience other than Mr. Giefer, who's already in our agenda, so we'll move on to 6.0, report from the superintendent of schools.
All right, well, we want to start by recognizing Veterans Day. We want to honor and recognize those in our community that have served. Today's a special day. They had a parade downtown, so some of our students were able to go to that. And we have many graduates that have served in the armed forces, and so we appreciate that service. All right, so coming up November 15th through the 17th, that's this week already. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the KASB Annual Convention. Starts Friday afternoon, goes until Sunday noonish, well, 10:30, 11-ish. Kayla and I are both going to go. She has some other meetings Friday morning, and then I have the state superintendent's meeting, so we're both going to go late Thursday evening to be there all day Friday. So that was the information was in the View back in September about like the permanent policies and the recommendations that KASB offered, things that she's going to vote upon. So if you have questions about that, or you think, oh, what was that? Let me know. It was 18 pages of reading material that I'd be happy to provide, so you can tell her the way in which you'd like for her to vote. So that's coming up this week. On the 15th here in town, we have staff professional development, so there will not be school for students. So our elementary folks are going to do Go Math, which is the new Go Math curriculum. It's the curriculum we had before, it's just the updated version, so the professional development and training on that. Our middle school and high school staff are going to work on horizontal alignment, that curriculum alignment that we've talked about, that's part of the strategic plan. And they're going to be doing that by content areas. They're also going to be doing some work in teams, grade level teams and departments to get some things done on that Friday. So no school on Friday. The following week, it's already time for Thanksgiving recess, which is crazy. I don't know how we got here. So the 27th, 28th, and 29th. On the 27th, that Wednesday, there will be limited staff at the district office, but on the 28th and the 29th, everything will be closed. There won't be anybody working in the district or available. So we had parent-teacher conferences right before Halloween. They were pretty well attended. I did put that information in the View last week so you could see the percentages. And this year was a little bit different because we did student-led conferences at the middle school and high school in the fall, in addition to the spring. It made a huge difference. I mean, parents will come if their kid calls them and says, hey, I'm working on this, can you come? Takes 10 or 15 minutes, and we're still working the kinks out. By no means is it perfect. Not saying that, but it is better. And when we went through and looked, we had 61% of our high school parents attend. If we compared that to fall of last year, that was an increase of 40%. So, and middle school had 76% of their parents. And then our elementary schools were way up in the high 90s. So. And they're still making contact and reaching out to those folks that didn't come because we can have calls and those kinds of things. So that's what I've got for this month. Are there any questions? Anybody have anything?
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 7A, the transportation update from Mr. Giefer.
Good evening.
Hi.
I'm here tonight to report on what's going on in the world of transportation here in our school district. We currently have 9 bus drivers, plus myself, and 8 bus monitors. We are operating this year on the least amount of bus drivers we've had since we've been here, so we're definitely looking for bus drivers. We have 9 buses and 1 10-passenger van. 2 of our buses are used to transport special needs along with the van, which is used to transport students to Tech and Independence. We run 6 routes daily that transport 317 students on the AM routes and 374 are transported on the PM routes. 4 of our 9 buses are used primarily for activity trips. As of today, we have taken 113 activity trips using 138 buses. I have 2 copies of transportation request forms that was in your packet, and I want to show these to you because the one that's dated school year 2019-2020, that's the very first year we started our own transportation in the district. And you can see how many stops we had then. So as we have evolved in the last 5.5 years, Lori and I thought that we needed to provide better customer service to the students in the
One
district.
second, Rick. That's in view. It's not
It was in the View on
Yeah.
Friday.
So they
Did you
don't
guys
have,
not get it?
you know,
No, they
we
did.
got
In the
it,
view.
we got it
They
on
did.
Friday, we
They-
just don't have it in this
If
package.
they didn't bring their View, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
board packet.
So anyways, go ahead.
You can tell
You
just
see
by
the
looking.
difference. This is current, this was when we started 5.5 years ago. Lori and I talked about it, and we thought it was essential to provide better customer service to the students here in the district. So we probably added 6, 7 additional stops since the first year, just to make it more accessible for the students here in the district.
And so we bus, years ago, when we went to grade level attendance centers in 2011, the board made the commitment to transport students to their elementary buildings, transporting students grades K through 5. What we have found is then parents are used to transportation K through 5, and then when they get to the middle school, they're like, hey, wait a minute, I need a bus. And so Rick does everything humanly possible to rearrange and arrange, and then rearrange again to make room for our middle school and high school students on those buses. We do it on a case-by-case basis, and there are times that we have to say there's absolutely no room on that bus and we can't rearrange. So later tonight, he's going to talk about purchasing another bus as a part of our 2-year, as part of the plan, the transportation plan that we have, and possibly, instead of selling the bus, if we can find another driver, keep that driver, and maybe the possibility of running a middle school, high school route.
I
Sorry.
think we're going to have to find a couple more drivers to be able to cover that.
And we're going to have to
We
raise
really
our
wanted to do
wages.
it this year, but it's kind of like chips and dip. You either got one too much of one and not enough of the other. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Are high school kids and middle school on with elementary now? Because I knew they had gone back and forth. Yeah.
So, but if we
I
had
see signs
another
all
route.
over Cherokee, Pittsburgh, they're all looking for drivers. What seems to be the main issue, do you know? Rick?
I think a lot of it is the challenge to get the CDL license. In the last 10 years, it has been more challenging. They have to do more training. From my standpoint, we have to do more documentation, but it's a stigma that they don't want to,
What's the cost on that, do you know?
Well, it takes us about anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to train a driver. The CDL license itself is around $65, which we picked that up at the district.
Okay.
So they're not out, basically they're not out anything. We pay them to train, we pay for their physical, we pay for their first aid. I do the defensive driving, they don't have to pay for that. The only thing they really pay for is their tuberculosis test when they hire on, so.
But Rick sent me something just this last weekend comparing rates with area drivers and other districts, and that's something we're going to probably really need to look at this spring, moving into the summer, and hiring so that we are better prepared and offering those that we have in our employ the best, benefits and
And
wages
that's what Chief
possible.
Spinks brought up at Friday's police advisory meeting. The dispatchers get $4 an hour less than surrounding dispatch officers.
Right. And that makes it hard to want to stay.
Very hard.
So,
And-
and we actually do have one driver who turned in a resignation to go, to drive where he lives, and he was driving over here. But then they got smart over there and said, hey, we'll pay you, and then you don't have to drive, and so.
Okay. Well, we do have benefit. Mr. Giefer, I think, is a good supervisor and good to work with compared to others. He provides good structure and support for our drivers. And so if we need to look at the wage structure, then let's just get it on the
I
agenda to
think-
do that.
We do need to do that, yeah. Anytime KSDE has a transportation issue or idea or plan or Mr. Giefer is the one that they call. At least once a year, someone calls and tries to steal him away. State
well-
Department or Greenbush, yeah, he's absolutely a keeper. Does a great
Well,
job.
we need to talk about that then, so we can be competitive, kind of like
We
we're
can.
trying to be with other positions.
We sure can.
Other questions from Mr. Giefer on the update before we get later in the agenda to the bus?
Thanks for all you do. We've heard really good things about
Appreciate all your
you.
guys' support, really we do.
Okay. Well, we'll be back with you here in a moment then. Talk about the bus and the vans. Okay, we're moving to 7B, which is the chronic absenteeism. Mr. McGee's.
Okay, as we have planned for strategic planning this past year, and as you know, chronic absenteeism following COVID has been a big problem, not just in Parsons USD 503, but at the state and national level. We created a task force about 2 years ago, so we've been trying different initiatives, looking at data, researching what other districts are doing and trying to stay on top of and make improvements in chronic absenteeism. It goes right with what Mr. Kiefer was talking about, because a lot of those situations is identifying what barriers families and kids have to getting to school, and sometimes transportation's a big part of that. So when we look at, I sent a lot of data, as I always do, a lot of data for you to dive through, but just kind of looking at some of the highlights. We improved our chronic absenteeism by over 5% this past year, and the state improved by about 2%. So we're outperforming, I think, the state in terms of catching back up. That's the good news. When we look at the daily attendance rate, we've been behind the state the last 3 years, and we are now tied with the state. So we're making improvements there as well. Some of the other highlights, we talked about, we broke it down by grade level in the past. Lincoln, those lower age was our big concern, because that was our worst rates of chronic absenteeism. Lincoln and Garfield both improved by over 10% this past year, so we're making gains there. So I think a lot of the incentives and things we're doing at the school work great with the young kids. We got to find something that works at the high school level, because we're not making the gains there. So some of the things that we're looking at. I will say at the middle school, Susan Hill with Spark Wheels done a great job. So towards the end of last year and this year, they're trending very well. Our middle school numbers are looking really good. Those are all the good things. The bad things is we're still down around the bottom of the SEK in terms of daily attendance rate and chronic absenteeism. I know we're going to talk about student achievement again coming up in December and January, and our student achievement looks really good. So in talking with the instructional coaches and the administrators is, if we can improve those attendance rates and we get the kids into school, I think we can even make better gains there for the student achievement that we're doing. We can't educate kids if they're not here. So it's really key to everything we do that we get kids to school. If you look at breaking it down at those different levels, I think like the 95% attendance or more, our good attendance is becoming great attendance. Our good kids are coming even more, but those tier 3 or those highly at risk that are missing like 20%, those numbers have stayed pretty consistent. So adding the community health worker position that we've done through a grant, and hopefully hired Jaron Dixon will be on your agenda to fulfill that role. I think he'll be great at those at-risk kids and working with those families and identifying what are those barriers to getting them to school on a more regular basis. And so our hope is that we make more improvement in those areas as well. So.
And that was another reason that we hired an additional Spark Wheel person in Tanner Smith, so that he can begin to make those connections, because we've seen at the middle school
Yeah.
how Susan could have an impact with Spark Wheel.
Yeah. So
there.
we are making some home visits already, correct?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
yes, our
And
so-
Jaron
our social
Dixon,
workers, yes.
Part of
But
his-
go ahead.
Sharon's not making.
Part of his job description is to make home visits, which tells me, knowing Jaron, I can see a tremendous increase in our attendance, because he'll get to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
And he's pretty good at motivating kids and parents.
Yes, he is. I agree. Any other questions I can answer on the chronic absenteeism and the data?
No, but I think Guthridge, just having kids that have been at all schools, Guthridge, those kids are motivated to get that extra recess, to get that ring pop, like I think Kurt does.
Yes.
I think their staff is,
I
like
can
Henry
find it.
was livid that he missed 15 minutes of school for an orthodontist appointment and didn't have perfect attendance.
Yeah, I think
And I
all-
don't think we're like trying to go for him, but I mean, it is really motivating a lot of kids too.
Yeah, I think our
Get to school.
administrators are talking about it every week,
Yes.
emphasizing importance. Parent-teacher conferences, if you had a kid, you went, attendance was in there somewhere, so we're having conversations with the parents. So our schools are doing a great job.
Yeah.
It's just a tough thing to fight right now.
But we know what gets monitored gets done.
Yes.
And so kids having some ownership in that's been beneficial.
I think the competitive deal that they're doing at the middle school.
With the GOAT,
Yeah,
the
there's
different
some
schools.
Yes, I think that,
That's
I think that's really thinking outside
It
the
is.
box.
Well,
Yeah.
something's working there because their data
Exactly.
looks really,
And
really
that,
good.
yeah, that's Susan Hill at Sparkwheel. She's done a great job working with their administrators. And they have a GOAT that they pass between the Chanute Middle School, Independence, and then Parsons.
And our middle school, I think, is won it about every time.
Almost every time. They keep approaching me for a real goat. We're not buying a real goat, but,
But you know, it's different
But
when
it
you're
is fun.
looking at what works at Lincoln is not going to work at the high school. So it's really got to be individualized to that grade level and what works. So trying
So
different
at Lincoln,
things.
we're looking at parents,
right.
first of all.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know at the high school, my kids do not want those finals, so they will be there.
Yes.
And they will be on time to
So they
get,
don't have to.
exempt from, I think that's a great policy too.
Yep.
I think too that it speaks to the relationships that our teachers have with the kids, that our kids show up and they want to be here. So I think that that's impressive. And to be below the state is amazing.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Pegues? Go ahead.
No, good job, Mr. McGee.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the data.
Yeah, love data.
Yep,
You can't
nicely,
send us enough data.
well, nicely broken down, I think.
right, it's easy to
More,
I don't feel that way, John. Thank you.
It disproves.
Well, it's like Ms. Ray said, what gets monitored gets done. So we look at this data every week with administrators so that we're constantly monitoring with these interventions, are they working?
Right.
You know, and so we can adjust it if we need to.
Okay, we're going to move on to 8.0, the report of the September and October Tri-County Board meetings.
All right. Sorry I wasn't here last time.
It's all right.
In September, we heard some updates from our elementary coordinator, Shelby Breeding, for our district, and secondary coordinator, Sherry Dunley, and they serve Fredonia, Neodesha, Cherryville, as well as Parsons. They had a lot of positive things to say, but they also mentioned the move-in and the challenge that is, the number of students that we had come in at the first of the year. And then we discussed new requirements from KSDE School Board on the Science of Reading licensure requirements, which, of course, I've heard here about the pre-K through elementary needing letters training, 2 years of it. And they said that the districts that are providing that for their teachers and Tri-County teachers is much appreciated. So I assumed,
We've already done that.
I thought they
Our
were,
regular
I knew
ed
we had
answers.
already done it, and I thought surely Tri-County participated.
Yes, our special ed, they always participate.
Yeah,
in what we-
that's
yes,
great.
in what we do.
The insurance costs were reviewed and have gone up, as all districts in Kansas have. Tri-County will collect data on using the use of co-teaching. It will help Tri-County determine who identifies themselves as a co-teacher, the amount of co-teacher time used, and the type and amount of specifically designed instruction being provided by a co-teacher, and to identify the district's teachers that are doing great or need more training. Because she said that a lot of them say they're co-teaching, but they don't have the data and they don't plan together, don't have much time to plan. So they're really looking at that. They'd love for it to happen, but they want it to be consistent and uniform. In October, we took a tour of the Tri-County Education Center before the board meeting, and it was so interesting to me to see the difference from 10 years ago, and the setup and the updates and the improvements, and you could see that there was just, the difference I saw was on the walls and the teaching that they left on the wall. I don't know how to explain it, but references for kids. And you could tell they were getting to education for sure. One thing we did notice, and she pointed out, of course, was the playground is really in bad shape, and there's not much there. So that's something the Tri-County Board's going to discuss soon. Then we heard from the updates from the elementary and secondary coordinators who serve Independence, Coffeyville, and Caney. It was a really short meeting because then we discussed the interlocal practices, and I think Lori showed you those at the last meeting, and all the administrators get those. She passes those on down. And then we approved an additional teacher for Coffeyville because of their numbers. So those were those two meetings, and we have another one Wednesday, so I'll be going to that.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much for attending those meetings and reporting back. We'll move to 9.0, action to accept donations to schools.
All right, it's on the very last page of your packet, page 38. This is for September. And so here we had at Lincoln Elementary, St. Vincent's made a donation of backpacks for students, $90. Foursquare Church made 2 donations, one for hygiene products, $120, and staff gift cards, $60, for a total of $270 at Lincoln. Garfield PTO made a donation for second grade swag store, $500. That was the total donations for that month there. At Guthridge, PTO made a donation of cornhole bags, $43.68 was the donations for that. Parsons Middle School, Faith United Methodist Church had a donation for student supplies and needs, $318.41. Rotary Club made a donation for the attendance award, $600. Foursquare Church, scooter gift cards for staff and student hygiene kits valued at $500, total of $1,418.41 at the middle school. At the high school, Advance America made a donation of 50 student admissions to the first home football game, $200. And Daniel and Amy Manners made a donation to the volleyball program, $250, for a total of $450. So the total district donations for the month of September 2024, $2,682.09. So I would recommend that you approve those donations.
What's Advance America?
Don't know. I'd have to ask. Do you know? Yeah, that. I don't know, and there's nobody here to ask, but I can ask and let you know tomorrow. They donated.
It was nice that they donated.
It was nice that they donated 50
tickets.
student
Yeah,
admissions.
I'd like to know who they are.
I don't know, but I can sure
All right,
find
thanks.
out.
Okay, we need a motion to accept those donations.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to accept those donations as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Motion carries. 9.1, discussion and action on a new bus. So we probably need to hear from Mr. Giefer on this, I
We
assume.
do.
You guys see this in your packet?
In the view.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
This was a pretty hard pill to swallow this year. The cost of these things have gone up tremendously. Lori and I, we talked about, do we do it this year? But we're on our 2-year rotation this year, so we decided to move forward with it because, like Lori said, they're not going to get any cheaper.
Nothing's getting any cheaper.
I talked to my drivers and got their feedback, and they really like the Thomas buses because of the big windshields, lesser blind spots, which makes it safer. So after looking at these, that's my recommendation, is to purchase the 71-passenger Thomas bus.
And so kind of revisit my memory here, so
And so that's
there
not,
was an issue that the cost was going up, and so I wanted to broach that.
because it was 3 years ago we bought a bus, or 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
And the cost was
$107,000.
$107,000, and now the bus is $149,000.
Wow.
And I do have a solid guarantee that they will honor that price when the bus is delivered in June.
In June. And so we'll be able to have it by June. And each year, as a part of the capital outlay planning, I take $100,000 and set it aside in capital outlay for transportation. So there's always funds in there for this project so that we can stay kind of on track. Now, it's possible we could sell a bus. 2 different superintendents have reached out and said, hey, if you've got buses, I'd be interested in buying, one of your used buses. So, and last time we did sell a used bus for about 20.
Yeah, they only
25.
offered us
This time.
pennies for this, and I told them no way. And that's when Lori and I started talking about possibly doing another bus route for the older kids. We're just gonna have to find some drivers first, and if it turns out that we can't get enough drivers, I know, like she said, we can sell this to another district for a lot more than we were offered for.
And that would reduce the price by $25,000.
So the buses come with warranties like vehicles,
1 year,
Yes.
1 year,
1 year?
1 year,
Wow.
yes.
expensive bus.
Now, the powertrain, you might get a little more on that, but for the most part, it's a 1 year, yeah.
But we're not putting a ton of miles on our buses.
That's true too.
No, the one that goes to McCune puts on the most on our routes. Our activity trips, we put 7,000 to 9,000 a year on them, so I mean, yeah, the ones we bought, the 2 activity buses we bought in the 18, 19, that first year, they just now have a little over 40,000 miles on them. But the plan is when we get a new bus, we'll roll one of those over into a route bus.
Just
So
makes
do
the
we
most
have any
sense.
issues getting the current buses serviced? It seems like
No,
Bowman
no,
does a pretty good.
the mechanic we have,
Yeah.
we are so blessed.
That's-
Steve Vollmer does a great job for the
He's a great
district.
mechanic. We need something
his
done,
name.
he'll usually
Yeah.
drop what he's doing and help me out.
He's great.
He is great. He's been very helpful, so. But this isn't the lowest bid, when those 3 bids came in, but based on the experience we currently own both Thomas buses and Bluebird buses, and just the additional safety features of the Thomas bus, and would make it okay for us to not take the lowest
To
bid.
clarify, a few years ago, Mr. Giefer came to this board and he said, "No, I recommend you buy the Bluebird." So we did.
We did.
But he
Drivers
went-
don't care for
He
them.
went to his drivers and apparently, because first I've heard of this, went to the drivers and,
And they do drive a little, well, I mean, that's what they say.
Because
They look different.
I drive a lot of miles and I see a lot of buses on the highway and I kind of, whenever he came to us and talked about Bluebirds, I'm like, yeah, that's.
What you
I think
see.
They're a better looking bus myself, but if the bus driver like the Thomas, for the difference, which is
Minimum.
$7,000.
And the larger windshield just makes it easier.
Yeah,
They don't feel like there's-
I have no desire to try to drive and navigate a bus, so if they want a bigger windshield, I'm happy to give them.
Give them
No,
the
I
one
agree.
that they like the best.
If you want a bigger view, take it. I think it's
Yeah.
huge.
So you said this will provide better customer service, it'll give us more flexibility, it's safer, the ones that, this Thomas bus?
Yes, with the bigger windshield, yes, just a better view. They also offer the adjustable brake and accelerator
Which is very helpful.
pedals, which
Female drivers like.
some of my drivers like that better. That's the best way to explain that. So,
Well, if you're short, it helps.
yeah, I mean,
You can move the
they're
pedals
either going to
around
drop the
instead of-
seat and look through the steering wheel, or they're going to be pushing down with their tiptoes. This Thomas bus offers a feature where the pedals come up, where they don't have to do either.
That sounds safer.
So how many miles are on some of our older buses?
We have 2 buses right now. One's at 60, the other one's pushing 70. One we got rid of 2 years ago was right at 80, and at the end of this year, that one bus will be over 70,000. But again, if we want to try and put on another route, we don't want to,
Get rid of
we
it,
can
yeah.
hang on a little longer if we need
Just a
to.
little bit longer. I mean, because I think having a bus available, so I can, call someone south and say, I have it right now in the lot, they would be willing to take it.
There's days, there's not a bus left sitting out there, and when I have routes running, I'm just hoping nothing breaks down, because I don't have a bus to fall back on.
Moving a lot of kids to a lot of places, just what we want.
Okay, well, we need a motion.
I'll make that motion to purchase that bus that Mr. Giefer is asking for.
Thomas
Second.
bus. Yeah. So moved and seconded to purchase the Thomas bus, and Shawnee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now moving on to the van discussion. We need to discuss that too. A lot of money for a van too.
It is, that's what was at the top of the view. Now, they did bring us a van from Diamond Coach the other day. Whoa, it's like Secret Service fancy. It was all darked out window. It was, that is not what this
It
is.
looked like a van they use at casinos.
It did, I was like, wow, no, we're not using taxpayer dollars.
So
pretty
the last van we bought 2 years ago, we gave like 34,000 for it. But the vans are just like the buses, they've just gone up
Double.
astronomically. The major car dealers do not any longer make a 10-passenger van. If you drive anything over a 10-passenger, you have to have a CDL license. State of Kansas says if you're going to have anybody, if you're going to use a van, it has to be 10-passenger. So what Diamond Coach and these other two, well, Kansas Truck and Masters, they're retailers. And they will go to companies like Diamond Coach and say, okay, we want a 10-passenger van. So they'll go out and buy 12 or 15, and then they'll pull seats out and they'll rearrange it, which is called remanufacturing, which the state of Kansas allows that. It's now a 10-passenger. We're pretty lucky with Diamond Coach, just a little bit to the south of us. I got a hold of them, and they don't have to go, we don't have to go through a retailer, they'll sell it to us direct. So that 60,000 looks pretty cheap compared to the other two.
So,
What is the need about, what do we need a van for? Another,
We need to get rid of one, Olivia. It's got a lot of miles on it, the Dodge van.
I mean, what do we utilize?
the
What do we-
teachers use it, and the coaches.
Coaches.
And that's why we don't want to have a CDL, because our teachers and our coaches take kids.
So if they just need to, like if the tennis group's going to go or the golf group and it's not a
Ms.
group,
Posh would take that?
she could. So if it's not a group big enough to require a bus.
Fine,
Or-
I just wanted to know.
Yep,
Weight and so
but that's,
forth,
yeah, that's right.
Teachers have PD,
In the boat.
there's several of them, they'll take it.
Take
Yeah.
the van, yeah. And we do have a couple vans in the fleet that are old.
How many are in our fleet? And do we have capital outlay money for that?
Yes, we do. I visited with Laura. So we haven't typically set anything aside necessarily for the van, but there is adequate funds to buy a van this year.
How often are we rotating vans?
They're on the list for every other year, just like we have done for the buses. However, we haven't done that. We've put, like, I think it's been 3 years since we've purchased a van.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, but in reality, with the shortage of bus drivers, we have to use vans. We just don't have enough to,
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's, okay.
So I think, what was it, Ford was the last one that made those, and then
Yes,
they quit,
yes.
kind of, okay. all
yes.
right.
And the bid I have here is still a Ford,
Yeah.
but they're buying a bigger one, and they're gonna fix
I
it where
got
it's a 10-passenger, which is acceptable by the state of
Okay.
Kansas.
what's
So-
the warranty on those?
Pardon?
What's the warranty on
Those are
that?
like the 3-year, 36,000 miles, like a normal vehicle. And the nice thing about these remanufactured, there's more storage in the back
That's what I was
end of
gonna
them.
ask you.
There is
Yeah,
when they
there's a
take
lot
out
more
their
storage.
seats. Mhm.
Okay, I need a motion on
I'll
that.
make that motion to purchase that van.
I'll second it.
Third.
Okay, moved and second to purchase the van from Diamond Coach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
That's Diamond Coach of Oswego?
Yes,
Okay.
it is, which is great.
Then I count, that's good.
It's local.
Lou, Advance America, same-day personal loans on 2222 Main Street in
There
Parsons.
you go.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Mr.
Good to
Giefer,
know.
appreciate it.
Thank
That's
you.
owned by T-Mobile.
Thanks, Rick. See you tomorrow.
T-Mobile. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 9.3, discussion and action on lease agreement with Parsons Recreation Commission.
Okay, so this is for the use of the soccer fields. And so we have this, and then every year we sign it again in July for the next, an upcoming school year. So this wasn't signed in July. Gary has sent an email, and we have met a time or two, we've had a couple talks about changes that he wanted to make to the lease. The first was he wanted to use our maintenance staff during our downtime. And that was something that I had mentioned earlier that our business manager, and I don't feel like it's a good idea, simply because, one, we don't have a lot of downtime, and two, it's not recommended because then of liability and workman's comp, and then whose employee are they, and all of those things. The other thing was that they had asked, he had wanted for there to be a reduction in what they paid. So they typically pay in July and in January for the school year. They pay $20,000 in July, $20,000 in January. And then in June, we give them a list of, here's what the expenses were, here's how much it cost to have this additional person and to take care of the fields. So in your view, earlier, there was the little list of how much it cost this last year. And when you look at that, it seems reasonable that then he would request to pay a little bit less. So if we looked last year in 23-24, the fees in total for the employee, the FICA, the health insurance, all the field supplies, irrigation, water, all of that, were $54,138.66, of which the PRC paid $40,000. So that left the cost to the district a little over $14,000. Now, this does not include depreciation for equipment, which does play into this, but I didn't figure that in there. So what he would like to do is to pay less or to not make that July payment. He currently has not made the July payment. I mean, we're into November, we haven't received the July payment. In visiting with board leadership when we had our agenda meeting the other day, and we sat down and visited about it. We had talked about possibly, instead of the $20,000 payment that was due in July for this school year, possibly making that a $10,000 payment. And so then their next payment would be 20, so it would be a total of 30 that they would pay instead of 40, which would appear to make it a little more even. The other thing is we continue to have issues with drainage and turf and, no, not pretend turf, like real grass turf, those kinds of, and so we have already talked to TLC and paid about $1,300 for them to come in, and they should be in this week since last week it rained, because what they're going to do is look at surveying the actual property, actually surveying it. They have an engineer, they can come and look at the French drains, the other drains, to see kind of what we're going to have to do so that we don't continue to pond water and we're able to use the fields, because they really weren't usable this year for anybody. For safety reasons, we didn't want for that.
Well, I met with Gary Friday as the representative for the school board and president of Rec Center, and we discussed what the three of us had discussed. $10,000 seems reasonable. It has to go through the other commissioners besides myself, but the $10,000 is reasonable. As far as the field is concerned, the field has been leveled out. Pat LaForge came back and had that all leveled out. There is sod, or not sod, there's grass seed ready to grow. The watering system may be a little wider, but you can adjust the amount of water that shoots out of that to go onto the field, but that field should be ready to go.
Well, in theory, it would be ready to go. However, the watering system that we put underneath there, when he talked about adjusting the water, we can some. However, that system was too large to have been installed there. It was purchased and designed for a much larger area than what we have, but it was already purchased. And so that was what they had put in, and so that's really been the struggle. Especially with the water last week, there was a lot of ponding on the field, and that just creates those dead spots, which makes it really hard. It seems like
it's very dangerous.
Yeah, if we could just get it leveled out and have, because we may have to do something with a different kind of drain. And that's my point in saying that we have a $10,000, we give them a $10,000 cut, the first for July payment, but then keep the 20, and then let's look and see how much it's going to cost. I've got just this year to have the fields done properly with all of the, what do they call it, pre-emergent, post-emergent, all of those things. That right there is $6,752. Last year, we tried to do it ourselves, and that didn't work. Sometimes, we just have to get people who know what they're doing, and we need to be trained in how to do it. But the water issue has made it very difficult because it washes things off, and so we've tried to compensate by adding more or less or things like that. We did have a couple quotes. Mid-America Sports was here when they were here about the tennis courts. They looked at the soccer fields, and what he had said initially, what Nick had said, was that the problem area on the northwest corner of the soccer field, he thought they could fix that between $45,000 and $50,000. The full renovation, which we're not going to do, natural surface with drainage and a crown, would be in the neighborhood of $275,000 to $300,000. Obviously, I don't think that's an option. I wouldn't recommend that.
Soccer fields had crowns on them.
Well,
I
Nick
thought football
Tippett
fields did, but not soccer fields.
from the Mid-America Sports Construction, he was the one that was here and
That quote
said that.
to fix it is
So I don't
As
know.
much
The
as they
drainage, is that
put
why they have a crown?
in that
Maybe.
field.
I would
exactly.
assume there has to be a crown just because of the drainage. I mean, and most of the homes around here were built on swampland anyway. I mean, we, have a lot of sump pumps that are running.
So what?
A lot of the time.
What action are you wanting then, other than a reduction in the first payment?
So that would be my recommendation, is a reduction in the first payment.
And that would be the only change to the current lease agreement that you're proposing?
That would be my proposal. The other thing is, just as a reminder, as a part of that lease agreement, the district at any time can say, according to the actual lease, that it is no longer, doesn't want to do it, that it wants out.
Okay.
And
All right.
we can do that as well, so.
Did he
Um,
agree to only one partial payment? I
No,
mean,
when I spoke with him and when he sent an email, he just generally said a reduction, well, I don't know if he said a reduction or no fee, and then had talked about using staff and/or equipment. So, but he did not give me an amount.
So
He did not.
there's nothing in the lease agreement that allows him to use our staff or equipment, so you recommend we don't allow that?
Right.
And then you're recommending we do give them a cut of 10,000,
That is what I'm
For
recommending.
July.
Right.
and that's it?
That is it. And, or if you'd like to, you could terminate the lease, and we would owe them nothing in return because they have not made the July payment.
So there's your options, folks. Need a motion for moving forward on this.
I think the 10,000 is equitable for both parties. Reduction, so.
Okay.
Doesn't seem as drastic as just saying we're not going to.
Yeah, I mean, well, we want to partner. Obviously, PRC brought this to 503. We want to be good stewards of it. We're just trying to do what's right. There would be lost income for the future if we did terminate the
I agree.
agreement, so.
And I think what we need to do is, whatever the board decides in regard to payment, in June, that's when we need to sit down and have a meeting and look, these are what the expenses were for 24, 25, and so what do we want for it to look like in
Moving
25,
forward.
26,
Yeah, I
moving
agree.
forward?
I agree.
So that then we have that done, and we're not in November thinking, are we going to get paid? How much are we going to get paid?
Yeah.
Are we doing this? We're not,
Yeah.
so.
All right. Okay, so is that a motion to reduce? Okay.
I second it.
Okay, so it's moved and seconded to modify the lease agreement to allow for a reduced payment of $10,000. The one that was due on July 1. Do we want a deadline for that payment, or are we just going to say, you got to pay us the $10,000? Point of clarification.
Next payment is due January the 15th,
Yeah,
2025.
so the 20,000 is due on January 15th, so,
Mhm.
I would say it has to be due prior to that.
okay? So we can say like December 31st, if that's what you want to do, something like that. Okay, so friendly amendment to the motion, then 10,000 by December 31st, 2024. Anybody have a problem with that on the motion? Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 9.4,
And so this is the memorandum of understanding. There are no changes that need to be made to the MOU. We just need for the rec center to sign the MOU.
so do we need any action then?
No, we do not.
Okay, so we
It
don't
should
need
not
any
have been
action
on
then
there,
if we're not
so
going to change anything.
That is correct.
Okay,
We just are
all right.
waiting for their signature, so I apologize for
All
that.
right, so 9.5, discussion and action to set a special board meeting to discuss the student achievement data.
All right, so this is something we usually do with administrators and instructional coaches at the high school in the community room, and we review state assessment data. So they've already been here and shared with you FastBridge data, but to look at last year's state assessment data and talk about the things and plans, the ways in which they have been responsive to that data and what they've done. So we can get it done in an hour and we'll feed you lunch or dinner or lunch, however you want to do it. We could do it at lunch or we could do it of an evening. So if we do 10 minutes in each group, that's 50 minutes for you to talk to all of the buildings, and then 10 minutes for Jeff and I to wrap it up. So we can try to get that done in an hour. And looking at dates, if you want to do it in December, I have a few dates, or in January. I don't know what your preference would be, or if you want to do it.
personally have more dates in January than I do in December right now, but doesn't mean we can't do it or in December and try to hold off. So,
Yeah,
January?
just,
January's.
January?
January
Sounds way better.
sounds better.
Okay, so let's do this then. Let's circulate a few dates in January, since that's not like right now, and let's get it on the calendar so that everybody's kind of.
yeah, and I would say not at lunch, because it seems like we went,
We might have gone over.
yeah, we would have
So
certainly have
evening,
gone over.
preferably in January.
And I would say let's not rush it. Let's not say we have to have it done and now.
Okay,
Let's
gotcha.
take time.
All right.
This is about,
All right,
to me, this is most important.
all right.
So Wednesday evenings in January are
Church night.
probably, they are church night. Do we have people that will affect?
Yeah, but
It will
I
be.
could,
It will you?
It
We're
will you?
starting to do things on Wednesday.
Oh, are you?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we can look,
Well, just send the date out and we'll see.
Yeah, send about 4 dates possibly out via email.
Okay.
Let's get it done.
so I will send dates and ask for preferences.
Yep. All right.
Perfect.
Okay, so that's January. All right, so 9.6, discussion on tennis courts in Forest Park and possible lease.
We put this in here, thinking that there might be something, some paperwork. I don't have anything from the city, but the group was going to discuss when that paperwork came, if you want to.
So we just wanted to hear from you, so the concept of we signing a lease agreement with the city and then making some improvements to the courts, potentially doing some fundraising in order to get some of that done. That was my thought, because I didn't think that the city was going to even make the repairs that were necessary. And so the thought process is if we could sign a lease, we could control the timing and the extent of those repairs and the timing and the extent of the grand plan. So I just wanted to make sure the board was on board with that before we. So the city's supposed to be preparing some type of lease agreement. Ross Albertini's supposed to be doing that, but I just want to bring it to your attention more formally. Okay?
And we are in the process of getting a new city manager as the current one
Correct.
retires, and so that may have an impact.
things.
Yeah,
Correct.
we just don't know.
And I don't think we want to do anything significant until that person's there, because we want to have some dialogue with them. They may have a different plan for the city of Parsons going forward, or they may not, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're moving to 9.7, our first of 2 executive sessions here. We need about 7 minutes for the first one, which is personnel matters, so I'll entertain a motion on that.
Would you add an additional minute on that?
I can. We can go 8.
I'd appreciate it.
All right.
might as well go 10.
Okay.
All right.
We'll go 10 on personnel matters for non-elected personnel. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded that we're going to go into executive session, discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception at 6:48 for 10 minutes, and we'll return back here at 6:58. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, in executive session then till 6:58. Okay, we're back in open session here at 6:58, and we're going to move to item 9.8, which is executive session, to discuss confidential student information, and we'll need 10 minutes for this, and so need a motion in that regard.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to enter executive session, to discuss exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student in a coma at 6:59, and for 10 minutes, we'll return back here at 7:59. All those in favor say aye. Excuse me, 7:09, not 7:59. Okay, aye. Motion carries. We're in executive session to 7:09. Okay, so it is 7:09 now, and we're back in open session, so we're moving to 9.9, action on personnel.
All right, so we have some resignations from employment. Adam Brubaker, bus driver, effective October the 24th, 2024. And Teresa Taylor, middle school recovery room aide, effective October 31st, 2024. I recommend that you approve those resignations from employment.
So moved.
Moved and seconded to accept those resignations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, recommendations for employment. Brittany Carter, part-time custodian at Guthridge, effective October the 23rd, 2024. Ivory Kelly, full-time substitute teacher, effective November the 5th, 2024. Jeremy Stenstrom, full-time substitute teacher, effective January the 6th, 2025. So we'll need to make that correction. And Kayla Taliaferro, adult sweeper at Garfield, effective November the 4th, 2024. Jaron Dixon, community health worker, effective November the 11th, 2024. And Haley Mills, first grade teacher, effective January the 6th, 2025. I recommend that you approve those folks for employment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those recommendations for employment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, we have one termination for employment. Olivia Chase, middle school child nutrition staff, effective October the 18th, 2024. I recommend that you approve that termination.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the termination. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, we've got two transfers of employment. Bob Hoffman will be going from a substitute activity bus driver to a route driver, effective October the 28th of 24. And Jose Munoz Delgado will be transferred from the Garfield Behavior Support Aide to the Middle School Recovery Room Aide, effective November the 14th, 2024. I recommend that you approve those transfers of employment.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those transfers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have one resignation for retirement. Janelle Smythe, middle school language arts interventionist. That retirement would be effective June the 1st, 2025. So I got to tell you, every year at the beginning of the year, we always have people stand up. If you've been here, we have everyone stand up. If you've been here more than 5 years, stay standing. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And the last couple of years, Janelle has beat everybody out. This year was her 41st year in the district, and so.
And she got a standing ovation.
And she absolutely got a standing ovation
Long
that
time.
she deserved.
Yep.
She absolutely deserved it. So,
I don't really want her to retire.
yeah, she's worked at Garfield as a
I
classroom
was her
teacher in
first
title.
third grade class.
So she's, and
She's that old.
And she stayed all those years.
Well, we
So-
got to have a motion on her retirement.
We do
That's
have a
right.
motion. I
And she stayed after she had me.
Yeah, Katie had her after you.
That's right.
So moved.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve Ms. Smythe's resignation for retirement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. I don't see anything else, so I believe we are adjourned this evening, unless you want to stick around a while longer. And you